Hey, welcome to the Florida Real Estate Insider Podcast. This is our first podcast, but we decided to do one of these once a month for you to give you an overall view of what's going on in the market. This month, we have an overview of the general Central Florida market and the big boom that we're experiencing here.
There's plenty of information that we want to make sure that we're sharing with all of our viewers. And the best way for us to share that is by giving you frequent updates monthly. So that's why we did this podcast.
We're getting ready to get this one started. Stick around. We'll see you at the end.
All right. Let's jump into it, shall we? We're focusing on Central Florida today. So, Tom, what's up with Orlando's real estate market?
Well, the numbers coming out of Orlando's real estate market are actually kind of mind-blowing. Imagine a small town's worth of folks. Over 1,000 people moving to Central Florida every single week. That's not just growth. That's a transformation happening right before our eyes.
You know what's fascinating about those numbers? It's not just retirees chasing sunshine anymore. We're seeing this massive influx of young tech workers and healthcare professionals.
Well, that's because the big players have moved in. Lockheed Martin, EA Games, Amazon, they've all established major operations here. But here's what really catches my attention: the way different neighborhoods are evolving to serve these new populations.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about Lake Nona for a moment. 10 years ago, it was barely on the map, and now they're calling it Medical City.
The transformation of Lake Nona is remarkable. They've created this perfect storm of innovation and livability. You've got cutting-edge medical facilities, research centers, and some of the most forward-thinking urban planning in the country. But here's what's really interesting: the ripple effect it's having on surrounding areas.
That brings up an interesting point about property values. How are these changes affecting the traditional neighborhoods?
Well, take Winter Park as an example. Those brick-lined streets and 100-year-old oaks aren't just pretty. They're commanding some of the highest property values in the region. We're seeing appreciation rates of 3.9% over the past year, which is still impressive given the broader market trends.
So what's happening in places like Sanford that are still somewhat under the radar?
Sanford is fascinating. It's managing to thread this needle between affordability and character. The waterfront development there is bringing in young professionals who might be priced out of Winter Park, but still want that historic downtown vibe. And get this, Sanford is thriving, striking the perfect balance between affordability and charm. While growth is evident, the steady rise in property values and revitalization projects are making this historic area a standout option for young professionals.
That's exactly the kind of growth that makes me wonder about the sustainability of these trends.
Well, here's what the data tells us. Orlando is seeing sustained job growth across multiple sectors. It's not just tourism anymore. Job growth in Orlando continues across multiple sectors, especially healthcare and technology. This economic diversity helps sustain strong property values and long-term growth.
Let's talk about what's happening in Kissimmee, because this might be the biggest surprise in the whole market.
Oh man, now there's an interesting case. The vacation rental market there remains strong. High demand, driven by its proximity to theme parks. What's more, it's becoming an increasingly popular spot for first-time home buyers due to its affordability compared to Orlando proper.
That's bringing up another important point about market strategy and timing.
You know, the traditional rules about market timing have completely gone out the window here. The old wisdom about spring being the best time to sell, not applicable. We're seeing strong sales numbers year-round, with some of the biggest deals actually happening in what used to be considered off-season months.
Well, that must be creating some interesting challenges for buyers and sellers.
Absolutely right. And that's why the whole approach to buying and selling has had to evolve. Professional staging and technology like virtual tours and drone footage are now non-negotiables for getting properties sold faster in this competitive market. But here's what people often miss. It's the due diligence that matters most. And
that's such an important point about due diligence. What should people be looking for?
Well, beyond the obvious property inspection, buyers need to understand these micro markets. Each neighborhood has its own dynamics. Take Lake Mary, for instance. Lake Mary continues to attract international buyers with its upscale amenities and strong community appeal, driving interest from overseas. That's driving up prices in specific segments of the market, but only if you know where to look.
Sounds like timing and strategy are everything in this market.
And that's exactly right. The days of simple buy and hold strategies are behind us. Success in this market requires understanding these neighborhood-specific trends, having a solid strategy, and being prepared to move quickly. But most importantly, it requires understanding that Orlando isn't just growing. It's fundamentally transforming into something entirely new.
That really puts everything we've discussed today into perspective.
It sure does, Gabriel. It sure does. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Gabriel, what was your favorite part about it?
I don't know. It's full of information. I grew up in Lake Mary, so it's one of those things that my area was developed, and I remember going on the 417 past Lake Nona and not seeing really anything except for Nemours. And to think that now there's this huge medical city bringing in a bunch of jobs and a bunch of infrastructure, it's really exciting to see where Central Florida can go from here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember 2000, man. That place was just a bunch of cow pastures and absolutely no people, and now it's a bustling metropolis. So yeah, really fun.
Yeah, it's very exciting for the local economy, very exciting for transportation, infrastructure, and all the residents around the area.
Absolutely. All right, man. See you next month. Oh, and before you go, don't forget to grab your Sunshine State Handbook. It's got everything you need to know about moving to Florida, whether it's navigating the housing market, finding the best schools, or just figuring out where to get a solid cup of coffee. It's all in there and it's free, so don't miss out. You'll thank yourself later. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, drop your questions or comments below. I love hearing what's on your mind, and it helps us make content that you want to watch. See you soon.